Welcome back to another episode of the Devoted Creatives podcast. Again, we have another wonderful guest, and I'm going to allow him to introduce himself. So, for the purposes of our audience, please tell them who you are and what you do.
I am Jay. Nice to meet you. I'm a director, writer, movement coach, and consultant.
See, I know you mostly from your movement work.
Yeah.
And I always wondered, because there's a very big difference between a movement coach and a choreographer.
Of course, yeah.
Could we start there? What is a movement coach?
A movement coach is someone who plays with intention. So I think the difference between choreography is obviously there's a set piece of like material that people learn, and then movement is more like character and intention based stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's less of like learning a set routine. It's more like playing with intention.
Yeah.
So like think of like a feeling and then physicalize it. And it might just be like a gesture, or it might be like the way you walk. And I think simultaneously, it's similar to like an intimacy coach, which is happening now on like sex education, where like when intimacy happens, you go, well, what does an intimacy coach do? Then essentially, it basically makes people relax. It's not a set piece of choreography. It's basically an intention base. Similarly with kind of like stunt work, like of course there is choreography in that, but stunt work can also just be more intention based as well. So I think there's just like a blurred line between what is sort of like sets something and what is more intention based.
How do you become a movement coach? Where did you start? Were you a dancer before?
Yeah. So long time ago I was a dancer. I stopped when I was 21, and then basically I worked in theatre, and then I transitioned into like brand and music. And at the time there wasn't that many people doing it, like in the sort of fashion brand world, in the sort of middle scale kind of like brands. So I then sort of basically went like directly to the brands, like, and had conversations with like the art directors and like the account directors internally at the brands, and they were like, don't know what this is, but we actually have a shoot next week. And that kind of like started building my portfolio.
So you just reached out off your own back?
Cold, yeah. I had agents and stuff, like when I worked in theatre, and I sort of had, I had an agent when I was going into like brands and stuff, but anyone will tell you it's all about relationships. So like obviously your agents and managements and like lawyers have like relationships, but also you'll have relationships with people because obviously they've got to work with you.
Of course.
So I always say to anyone that has is an actor or writer or whatever it is, like build your own relationships. Like don't just wait on your agent or your manager.
Yeah, because if that agent leaves, you've got no relationship.
Yeah, for sure. And so it's all about collaboration, right? So that's kind of how I went about it. I did just wait for like a brief to come in. I basically went out and sort out, because obviously like your agent is only going to be presenting like your work, and if you haven't got that much work, what can they present? So then you have to just sell yourself to get the job, and then you build up your portfolio, and then they got something to sell, right? 'Cause that's kind of how it works.
That's an interesting conundrum, actually, because I feel like a lot of people, especially in the creative world, that thing of doing stuff for free versus...
Oh, I did that as well.
Yeah, but you kind of have to back yourself, fund your own short projects.
I did that.
What kind of stuff did you do?
So I used to do like, obviously like pieces of work that I funded myself. Like my first short film as a director and writer, I funded it, of course. I mean, that you sort of have to, and then people go, oh, I see that you can do that. But yeah, I think in the early beginnings, you definitely do fund your own things. And I think even like potentially as you even get up as well, like I know people that want to do X, but they're known for doing X in a certain place, and they do it really, really well.
It's like a street dance choreographer wants to move into narrative.
Yeah, or let's say you're directing beauty, right? And you're really good at beauty, but you want to do, I don't know, fashion. So then you have to potentially fund your own fashion spec film, so then clients can see that you can do fashion spec.
You've got to demonstrate it somehow.
Yeah, so I think getting an Oscar, I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe as if you get like the top 1%, potentially there's more sort of transitional sort of thing that you are literally the 1%, but a lot of people who are like just below that 1% are probably very good at like one direction, and they might want to do something else, but because clients and brands and agencies see them doing one thing,
they might get pigeonholed really easily.
Yeah, they might not see something else, so they might say, oh, I would love to do like an experiential art beauty thing, but I haven't got that in my portfolio, so they might go just self-fund and do that, or they might do a short film and say, I want to get into like TV or film or narrative, so they have to go and do a short film, even though they've got this huge work of music videos, for instance.
What kind of lessons did you learn with that kind of at that early self-funding journey, making your own projects? What do you feel like you gained from that experience? Because the alternative is a lot of people would just go to film school and study.
Yeah,
it.
but you can. I mean, there's some people who don't go to film school, right? Who go and do a totally different journey. I mean, I always sort of reference like Taika Waititi.
What's that?
Taika Waititi, he's a filmmaker.
He did Marvel and
yeah, he
Guardians.
did Thor and stuff. Like
Yes.
he did like I always like kind of like his journey. I mean, he didn't go to film school. He did 10 years of being like an art director, but like doing poetry and painting and writing and that sort of stuff. But like not in like script form. And then I think it was like 31, and he was also acting as well. And at 31, he decided to write a short film called Two Cars One Night, or I think it was Two Cars One Night, which got Oscar nominated as first short, but it was funded by the New Zealand arts organization. But like for 10 years, he was doing something like still with the arts related, but he didn't do filmmaking, and then he just sort of had the urge to do it. And like same thing for a lot of different filmmakers, you go through different things that are related to the arts, but they're not specifically like you're not training in that area.
So returning back to that, then that question with that in mind, what were some of those early experiences you had that have contributed now? Like what have you taken away from those early experiences?
Because I started like directing and writing probably 2019, and I did like a load of different commercials, and at that point I was like, well, I have my own voice, but I wanted to explore my own voice rather than supporting someone else's voice. Mm-hmm. But I say to a lot of people, like if I did it 5 years early or 4 years early, I wouldn't have been ready. Because I learned so much. I think because you grow into your own artistry and like what you want to perceive or what you perceive and what your perspective is on life. And obviously as you get older, time becomes a major factor in how you spend it and how you see things. So obviously when you're 22 to when you're 28 or 30, it's very different. So if I started my journey where I was at 29, so 2019 into 2014, 2015, I think I would have been too premature of like doing the stuff that I'm able to do now.
So you almost feel like you needed that time spent
to do the things that I was doing, and build up those relationships and build up that sort of thing. So when you pivot and you want to do other things, it's easier to pivot if you've already have that network or that thing. Because like when you're first coming in the industry, you don't have a network, right? But when you're pivoting or when you're trying new things, you're known for a certain thing, or you have those relationships. So you go, actually, I've already worked with this person. So, like my first short, I already worked. It was produced by Ridley Scott, Black Dog, but I already had that relationship because I already worked with them a couple of times. So when I had the script, I just basically sent it to them and said, you already know me, but like, here's a script. Do you like it? And then it was obviously easier. But if I did that years beforehand without that relationship,
you're just another person.
I'm just another person, right? So obviously they saw me in different light, but when I came with a script, they were like, oh, okay, we already know you for this.
Yeah.
This is a great script, let's do this.
We actually kind of touched on that before we started rolling when I asked you about having an agent, because you said you've always had an agent.
Since I was 18, yeah.
Crazy.
Since I was 18.
I don't have an agent, and I've always gone back and forth about where the value is, whether I should or not. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think most people have agents, lawyers, managers.
Accountants.
Accountants. They all have, but also over here we don't have really managements. We more just have agents. But in the States, managers, agents, and lawyers, and they all do different things, slightly different things. But I think it's beneficial. One, because then you don't get attached to like the budget and fees and that sort of thing, and you just focus on the creative. But what is really, really good, because they are obviously representing a number of people, and so they're already having conversations on another artist with another person about something else that they might sort of go, oh, that would be great for this client, and then you're having those sort of conversations, and also they want to potentially use more than just one artist within that agency. They probably might want to go, okay, maybe this would be great for the second artist and the third artist. So then that agent obviously has 3 people on the same job rather than just one person. And also for me, it's also easy as well. Like if you are repped by a certain agency, right, and you want to work with an X person, and that person's also repped by that person, it's a lot easier to go to your agent and say, I want to work with this person. Yeah. Can you send this thing? Like I think it was Breaking Bad. So Vincent, Vince, Vince Gillian. He was repped by another showrunner. So he was repped by an agent, and the agent was representing a showrunner, which is an executive producer, who did a TV show that he wanted to get noticed by. So he had the script, and he said to his agent, who when he was doing I think he was doing more TV drama, and he said, I really want my script to be in front of the showrunner, executive producer. And so the agent was like, okay, and this was a big showrunner, executive producer, so they did it that way. But if he wasn't part of the same agency, it would have.
Well, they're not even incentivized to help you out.
Yeah, and also it would have been more tricky to get hold of that executive producer if you weren't part of the same network.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like if you're represented by a big American agency like CAA or like UTA or WME, they have a number of different artists within their agency. So they're incentivized if you have a project or an idea, a TV show or cooking book or whatever, that sort of thing. They have a big network of attaching people to it.
You're selling me on the agency thing.
Well, I think I there's so many pros to it, but obviously the cons is obviously you're giving percentages away and stuff. And the more people that's in your team, I mean, Rebel Wilson and numerous actors always say it, it's like you have more people in your team, you're giving more percentage away. So you've got to give X percentage to your manager, X percentage to your agent, X percentage to your lawyer. So, but obviously the deals are bigger.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, also my view on that is 100% of nothing is nothing. If you're not getting that work in, you ain't making anything.
Yeah. So I always say I think it's a really good benefit because then you're further away from the negotiation stuff. But then if you're producing your own work, then obviously you have to get a bit nitty gritty into the sort of the finances of things and stuff. Which
we have to do. As the company.
Yeah. And because obviously more people want autonomy and ownership over their work as well. So that goes sort of beyond the agent unless they become sort of a producer in it. But
how do you navigate while being agency represented then more independent or personal projects that you might want to work on? Because sometimes agencies are you have to be exclusive. How do you manage those your personal and private pursuits you want to make creatively, or if someone came along and just happened to know you, do you go, I'll go through my agent? How do you manage that kind of
I don't really have many personal projects.
Fair.
They're all attached to things. I think just kind of my brain works, but I do really encourage people to do passion projects because usually what happens is that clients and people hire the person that's done that really cool passion project and then get them to do that for the commercial, which happens quite a lot. So it's happened to a lot of my friends that they go off and they shoot something and then the client goes, I really like what you did there. And obviously because you've had complete creative freedom, and generally speaking, creative projects then become taken and made commercial, which is what happened with example, the Apple campaign. I think it was called Bounce, and he was bouncing on different objects in the street. But that actually was made by a theatre choreographer. It was it's a very well known piece. He's on a trampoline, and he goes up the stairs and he jumps in.
Oh, that guy's a brilliant artist.
But so that was originally his concept, and then I'm sure someone from an ad agency saw that and gone,
that'll work.
That's a really great idea, and they built that into the campaign, and obviously hired him. But yeah, it's all these creative things that are in not the limelight or the commercial space, maybe because they're a bit too risky or they're a bit too creative. And then it gets brought into the limelight. But then you look at things like Poor Things, right? The film is so wacky and so brilliant, and it's an original script. I know it's not original script. I think it's based on a book. But those things as well. Maybe it was a passion thing
that doesn't get made if it's just if it's by committee and kind of you don't do that to make money.
Well, I mean, I think Emma was already attached anyway from doing The Lobster, but maybe it was just a thing that he was writing, and then he was like, maybe this would be a great feat. I don't know, but I think a lot of things potentially turn into just side things, and then they go, oh, this could really be something, and this could go to X brand, or this could go to a studio, or this could be developed into something.
Were you always a creative person?
Yeah.
From the very beginning?
From the get-go.
Tell me about that.
My parents are super, super creative. My sister's also in musical theatre. And so there was always this costume box when I was younger.
At home.
Yeah. Well, since I was like 4 or 5, and we would dress up in our outfits and do performances in front of my parents.
Von Trapp family style.
No, I'm joking. Yeah, at Christmas, my parents harmonise.
That's incredible.
With my sister, and I can't sing.
Yeah.
So my sister tries to make me sing in harmony, and I can't harmonise. But there's videos on my phone of them all
so cute.
harmonising, and I'm trying to harmonise, and I can't hit the note quite quickly. But yeah, I mean, I've been doing. I mean, every kind of like artistic pursuit, whether that was sort of amateur dramatics or like drama society, or I was head of the drama department. I mean, I soaked up as much as I possibly can from like the National Youth Theatre or like the Youth Music Theatre or like my local theatre in Plymouth, like the Theatre Royal as part of the youth programme. Like I did.
You got involved.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Every possible arts organisation I was involved with.
Incredible.
From an early age, and either that I raised money for it to like go to, because obviously these things can be quite expensive. I think the National Youth Theatre was like probably like £1,000. I think back in the day,
Yeah.
my parents were like, "Oh, I don't know if we can afford that." So I used to do raise money. Like I used to pack bags and I do performances and stuff. Like I did when I was younger. I did for my school. I used to do like theatrical performances in front of like 200 people.
Yeah.
So I used to do this thing called Wake and Shake every morning. It was part of a government scheme, and I used to have to like dance and wake the school up.
Oh wow.
I'm not even joking. In front of 200 people, I used to like lead them in a warm up every morning with Wake and Shake. So yeah, so I've always done.
You
it.
must have been a character at school.
I was, yeah. Still a character now.
Of course.
Still a character now, but yeah, it's always been in it.
So at what point did you think it would be a career then, or was it
From the get-go.
Seriously, also as well?
My parents knew from like 5 or 6, like both my sister and me were doing it.
It's amazing.
Like there was never anything else. I mean, I kind of thought I was going to be a footballer for like 5 seconds.
We all do.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? We all do. But I wasn't very. I mean, I actually did. I thought I was going to be a professional hockey player though.
Okay.
I actually went to the School of Excellence for hockey. I did it I was very good with sport, and I did this hockey thing, and the scouts came, and there was like it's an all England hockey team, and I was in the junior all England hockey team, and I was quite good as a defender. Didn't know I was very good at it because I just sort of did it, and I was
just playing.
Yeah, and then they scouted like 2 people, so I got chosen, and I had to go to this tournament thing, and then and I can't remember, but it got to a point where like I could have gone further in this hockey thing, but my drama and the dance and all that sort of stuff was way bigger aspiration. But I could have been professional.
I would have never guessed.
No, me neither. But I was apparently quite good at doing hockey as a defensive player.
And who were some of your early creative inspirations?
Oh dear, early creative inspirations. Probably like Tom Hanks was a huge one for me. Sure. I mean, I love anything that that he does. Really, Scott was a big one. There's been so many that I just look at, and obviously Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey was for me, and Robin Williams. Jim Carrey for me was like, I love Jim Carrey. I just think he's.
What is it about the way that he performs?
His outlook for life and his playfulness. I just like the silliness of it. That's my type of comedy. My comedy is like really loud and physical. Like I laugh my ass off on those big sort of theatrical kind of things, and like Normal Wisdom back in the day, which is more like kind of playful sort of things, like slapstick. That was a sort of big thing for me, and that's what I did when because originally I was going to be an actor. That was my original thing. I was going to go into acting school, and I got into different drama places, and then in the end I didn't go to drama school. I went to dance school and stuff. So I've always sort of had like an actor's mind. And so the big one for me was sort of like being like a show with Jim Carrey and stuff. And I even thought about going to do like the Growlings in LA and doing like a comedy workshop thing.
Yeah.
So I think I would like it. I think because I was always really good at improv, and I'm really good at improv. Like now, like if you said to me like make a scene about whatever, I probably could. And I kind of like.
What was that show back in the day? Was it Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah, Whose Line Is It Anyway? I love that show. It's actually come back.
Oh, cool.
It's still around now, but yeah, I just like anything part of the creative space really.
I love that you mentioned Robin Williams as well, because he was for I think for any creative person who liked movies in the 90s, he was such an icon of, like you said, playfulness. Just embracing people, collaboration.
Yeah.
Like the way that he worked, he was very much he had a lot of generosity on screen, I feel like. Like the way he performed with people, he gave a lot.
It's like you knew him.
Yeah.
So when he passed away, I felt like my friend died.
You lost someone, yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. It was very... Even now, though, I think about him and I go, oh, God, I miss him.
He was special.
He was very special, but he had this sort of transcending energy that just went through the screen. Like, you sort of knew him. I can't explain it, and I'm sure many people would say the same thing as well, that you sort of knew Robin without even knowing him.
Yeah.
And it's very rare that any artist or any sort of actor does
I can't think of anyone else like him.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
He sits in a weird little place on his own.
Yeah, he's just a really warm energy and I think because he was so pure in his energy that he was always giving, obviously because he was probably struggling and he wanted people to feel great. But I don't know, I always watched him and felt really warm. Like when you watch like Mrs. Doubtfire or anything like that, or like what was the Good Will Hunting?
Yeah.
Like those sort of films.
I loved Mork and Mindy. That was my favourite.
Mork and Mindy,
that show was incredible.
Yeah, like it's just crazy.
There's no accident he played an alien, because if they were aliens, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually was just playing himself.
Do you know what I mean? He's not actually from this planet. He's actually an alien. But that you would probably believe that because he doesn't really act like a normal human being.
He was something else. Who now do you look to for inspiration as a professional creative, well established in your career?
Who do I look to? Loads of people.
Yeah.
Loads of people. Like, I really like Dan Levy at the moment, who was the showrunner, creator of Schitt's Creek.
Okay, cool.
I love that
show.
Yeah, I love.
I laughed. I cried. Brilliant
but
show.
also him as well, because like, again with the journey thing, didn't go to film school. He was like, he worked at MTV as a host, and obviously his dad's Eugene Levy, and then he just came up with an idea and then worked with it with his dad, and then made a really great TV show. And I love my interest is people who don't come from the traditional like avenues. I've gone to drama school, I've gone to filmmaking school. They've done something different, and that's kind of where they've got to. And those are the people that I always look to and go, I like your journey. Or like Donald Glover, example.
Yeah, he's
who is like a bit of a multi-hyphenate. I think we're in an era now where we can do many different things because people are more open-minded, and you can really cross into different areas where maybe like 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't really like that. You really had passion. You really
had to pick.
Yeah, and nowadays you can cross into. I mean, I love there's a showrunner called David West Reed, who was a writer at Schitt's Creek and then moved up and became an executive producer, and then wrote *And Juliet*, which is a Western musical, right? But he's a TV writer that then goes and writes a book for a musical. Like, maybe that wasn't a thing 15 years ago, that you were doing you were a TV writer and then you then wrote a musical. Like, that wasn't a thing, and I quite like that you can really cross over, because the process of you as a creative is the same. It's just the environment and the result is different.
And you get to express yourself through different mediums.
Yeah, and that's in the next 15 years where I want to be able to get to, that I can then go and do a TV show, and then I can do theatre, and then I can go do a film, and I want to be able to do those sort of things and also develop them. Just go, I've got an idea. I think this would be a really great TV show, which we obviously seen from Stranger Things, which is a TV show and now it's become a theatrical experience. Like, why is it not? Why is, and you see it more now with TV shows and films becoming obviously West End productions and plays and stuff, like
even theme park rides
and everything. Like, why is it that I can't create a TV show that then becomes adapted into a theatrical experience? Like, that's kind of how my brain operates.
What kind of themes do you feel inspire you creatively?
Easy. Life.
Okay.
Life, death, self-growth, and just the awareness of how time is. I'm fascinated by time. That's a big thing for me, time. Like, the time that we're in April now, right? Yeah. And I remember what I was doing on the New Year's, and suddenly it's four months later.
It's like we fast forwarded.
It's a bit scary, and I think as you hit like your late 20s into your 30s, you become more aware of time. And for me, in my work, I'm always looking at how characters become better or change over time. So like Walter White in Breaking Bad goes from A to B, and it's a clear like development of character. And I always want my characters to learn something. So whenever I'm writing or making a project, a film project, or anything, I always want to tap into what is it to be human, and kindness, and grief, and empathy, and just relationships. I want to explore what it is to be human and all these amazing things that we have, because time is so short as well. And also redemption and things that you learn when you're 20s, and then things that you become better at your 30s when you become more adept at your own emotions and where you're at. And I think I've definitely grown. I mean, of course, I've grown so much from when I was 22 to what the age I am now.
Yeah.
Like, my emotional intelligence has got increasingly better, because clearly you become older, you become more mature. And that's the type of work that I'm fascinated with, is the authenticity of what it is to be human and how we grow and learn.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many stories to tell there.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I just think it's so beautiful. I love the balance between the comedy drama. That's where I think it's really lovely, and where I sit, and all the stuff that I'm attracted to. Even like Good Will Hunting, which is a comedy drama, right? It's funny, but it's also there's an underlying
some dark
thing.
themes there.
Yeah, like I love that space where, because I'm quite light and surface space, but I think a lot about life, and that's where my work sits. That I want to be light on the top, but really important themes.
Yeah.
Where we're talking about grief or life or death or anything that is sort of a bit more weighted, but told in a light tone.
Yeah, I hear that. Failure
Oh yeah,
is a big theme in life.
Oh, for sure.
How do you deal with failure, and what do you learn from failure?
I failed so many times. I do it on a daily basis. Because I also risk quite a lot. I don't not risk, so I fail quite a lot, and often. But then I have a really quick rebound. So maybe like half a day or day, and then I'm sort of like over it, and then I sort of pick myself up and get onto it. There's so many things that haven't worked out, like projects-wise, that I wish that would happen, and stuff, and that's obviously part of the process, and things I wanted, it didn't happen. But I always believe that's the idea of the universe or the higher power, that everything is made for you, you will get. Even if I don't get the thing that I wanted to, it's because there's something else down the road. And that's what gives me comfort in the failure of the things that I can't get made yet, or the things that I don't get, is that there's something bigger down the road for me.
And also, I often feel like sometimes things don't work out now because they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
They're almost the setback is the thing that's going to make you prepared for it when it comes back around.
Oh, for sure.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm dealing with something at the moment, which I'm like, it's a bit of a roadblock, and I'm like, maybe I'm not meant to do this now. Maybe I'm meant to do it in like 4 or 5 years.
Revisit.
Time. Yeah, maybe I'm meant to revisit in 4 or 5 years' time, and maybe there's a roadblock for a reason and stuff. But I
mean, imagine how much more you're going to have to contribute in 4 to 5 years' time.
Yeah, and I think like example like Damien his last name, Damien Chazelle, or Damien Chazelle, who did Whiplash, and he did La La Land, right? So he couldn't get made the full script of Whiplash.
Okay.
So what he did, which a lot of filmmakers do, is he created a short film. So he took a scene from the feature, but he obviously tried to get the feature made, and it just wasn't his time, right? So he did the short film, and then it did Sundance, and then it did really, really well, and then he could raise the finance for the feature film, right? So maybe he had to wait an extra like 3-4 years to do the full feature because it wasn't ready yet, right? So the universe was like, okay, so I'm going to put a roadblock in. You're going to have to do something else to get you into the next level to then do this thing. And maybe it's sort of like that, because obviously it's like you need to do something to then put you into that next level, so that next space, so then people can see you in a certain way, so then you can do the thing that you really originally wanted to do, but you have to do something smaller to prove that thing to then do the big thing.
But also, I feel like sometimes with certain ideas, the world just isn't ready. And if you buy yourself a few more years of, graft, of experience, when that idea is ready to be expressed and to meet the world, it finds a world that's actually ready for it.
Yeah.
Like if Whiplash had come out 3 years before, maybe it wouldn't have been received in the same way.
Yeah, and I think there's a really lovely actor and friend called Coleman Domingo, who just got Oscar nominated this year for his role in Rustin. And I was listening to a podcast of him a couple of weeks ago, and he was in Walking Dead, and he had that role, I think it was at 45, 46. But for a long time, he was doing theatre and stuff. But then you think about going, why didn't he get that role earlier in TV? Because maybe he was doing theatre, right? But he wasn't maybe ready
he wasn't
for that
guy.
role until he was 45, because he had to learn all this sort of thing. And maybe
Yeah.
he wanted it at 40, but he just wasn't ready. And again, it's about timing, isn't it, right? You have to learn all these skills and these things. So then when the time comes at 45 or 40 or 35, you're ready for it. And then you can flourish and be the best you can possibly be, even if you want it maybe a couple of years beforehand because you're not ready yet.
It's a frustrating thing for people to get their head around, I think, especially as a creative. Because sometimes you want something so bad, or you believe in an idea so much, that sometimes you can almost be trapped and it can be hard to step away from it.
I don't know if you could step away from it. I mean, I think that obviously that you have to be really passionate about what you're doing, but I think you have to slightly be this word that I don't really like, realistic. I don't really like this word.
Why?
Because I think it was unrealistic that we could fly a plane, and it was unrealistic that we have light bulbs, and yet we do.
Yeah.
Right. So
apparently.
Yeah. So there's this word of being what is realistic, and loads of people obviously in the past were like, oh my God, it's unrealistic to build, I don't know, pyramids, and yes, and that we have that, right? So there is something about an unrealistic and a realistic expectation of yourself and what you want to achieve. And they said, oh, it's unrealistic to have this sort of type of show, or like to have women be at the forefront of superhero things. I mean, that at the time, people were like saying women don't sell in international waters.
People weren't
right?
going to see a blockbuster.
Do you know what I mean? That was unrealistic, and yet we do it. So there is this word that I don't really like, but there's something that you sort of need to be in sort of the realistic thing of, even though I'm really passionate about it, it might not be, it's going to happen, but it might not happen yet. And yes, you have to might be like, just put it to a side for a little bit, that you then come back to it when the timing is right, rather than just going, it's never going to happen, and I'm just going to let it go, because it just might be timing. And I think it was like Breaking Bad. I think it was like he wrote it, and it was probably 3 years until he sort of got it on its feet. Similarly with other different TV shows and things that just take a long time, like Stranger Things was, I don't know, quite a while, and they had a first deal, they didn't like the deal, and they went to another places and got that deal. So I think it's like being realistic but not being realistic, because like it's like saying, like, I think it was like Shrinking when they got who's the guy from Star Wars who plays opposite Princess Leia?
Mark Hamill?
No, the other guy. He's in Indiana Jones.
Oh my God.
What's his name?
This is ridiculous.
I know. What's his name?
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford, yeah. So like I was listening to Brett Goldstein, who's one of the showrunners on Shrinking, and it was unrealistic that they were going to get Harrison Ford to be in the show, and they just sort of like sent an email, and then he was like, "Really like the script? Let's do it." Right? But they even said it was unrealistic that it was even going to happen. Like it was sort of pot luck. And I think, and maybe this is me being really optimistic about a lot of things that I work on, that I just go, why not? If you don't send that email, if you don't do those things, you will never get what you want.
Yeah, because it's as good as a no.
Do you know what I mean? So you might as well
If you don't try, you're getting told no anyway.
Yeah, so like it's unrealistic that most things even happen. Like when obviously there's loads of car films coming out at the moment, like Ford versus Ferrari. They were saying like it was unrealistic that Ford would ever win.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? And yet do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All these things we would say, because they have like very limited mindset. And I think it's the people who are like very smart and also very ambitious and optimistic, that they see the bigger vision. They see what's realistic, even though in an unrealistic world.
I feel like a lot of creative people are, this might have come up before in another conversation that I've had, there is something to being a creative person and being a little bit delusional.
Yeah.
Just having a slightly wild vision and going, I think it could work.
Why not hit big though?
Yeah, why not?
I'm always hitting big.
Yeah.
The amount of projects that I'm working on, and I say we should get this person involved, and some people go, that will never happen. I'm like, why not?
Ask.
I'd literally go, just send an email, send a nice worded email, even write, even hand wrote letter, like do anything, send it off. You never really know, and if you don't send it, it just might not happen.
What have been one of the craziest examples for you of that happening with a brand or a person?
A brand or a person? There's one time, right? So I remember doing this job for AMI. Was that AMI? And I'm a bit persistent, and so
I'm a bit persistent.
I'm a bit persistent.
Slight understatement.
Yeah, I'm a bit persistent. And so basically, I sent an email to someone, this producer, and then they were like, "Yeah, this is great." Da, 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 da. And then I sent another email like a couple months later towards Christmas, and just like again timing all worked out. And I thought I'm just going to send another email and see what happens. And then they replied and gone, actually, this is perfect timing. Actually, we're all in London for Christmas. Why don't you come to the hotel? So I came to the hotel and met the owner of the company, and then they were like, this is really, really great timing. I'm so glad that you sent the email because we really liked you, but like we just didn't have enough time 5 months ago. So I was like, this is great timing.
Yeah.
And then they offered me the job for this AMI thing. And these are the moments that I say to people, like, if you don't like sort of send that extra email, sometimes it just might not happen because people are really busy and they get a lot of emails, and they might want to get back to you, but it just is in 100 emails. But if I didn't send that second email at that time, that relationship wouldn't have happened.
How do you know? Because I say this to younger people that I do talks at colleges and universities sometimes, and I say this to them a lot in that sometimes someone will email me with an opportunity or asking about something or offering to help out on a shoot, wanting to shadow me, and I'll be like, oh, this is great. And then someone will call me, or I'll get another email, and I'll just be quickly distracted, and I won't think about it for 2 months. And if they just messaged me a month later, I might have been like, oh yeah, I forgot to get back to them.
How do they know that though?
No, but
don't know.
my assumption is if someone doesn't reply, they haven't seen it. Because if they're not interested, they'll tell you they're not interested.
Yes.
That's my assumption always.
Potentially, yeah.
I mean, I might be wrong. If they're not interested and they don't reply, then I want to annoy them enough that they tell me they're not interested by replying, by being persistent.
Yeah.
Because it's better to have a definite no than, they just missed an email.
Yes, which is true. I totally agree. But yeah, sometimes they miss an email, or sometimes I've had a problem recently where my email has been landing in junks. I don't know why.
But you wouldn't know that.
I didn't know until a friend told me and said, your email's landing in junk. And I was like, oh, this is so annoying. And then I messaged someone else and I said, by the way, is my email landing in junk? And then they said yes. So the email wasn't getting to some people.
There you go.
But
so I think there's no harm in maybe, like you said, a month and 2 months later or a month later. I don't think that's not bad. That's not a bad frequency. Once every week might be annoying.
Yeah.
And you'll find out very quickly, even if they were interested, they're probably not going to be interested anymore.
I don't think send an email every week, but I think...
It's a bit extreme.
Yeah, a bit extreme. But there was, I think it was Cillian Murphy, who on a podcast was saying his first feature, he pestered the director because the director really liked him, but he didn't have the funding. So he said, when the funding's done, I'll cast you or do it. So Cillian would pester for like a whole year.
Oh, wow.
Until he raised the finances, and he was obviously at the forefront of his mind when he raised it, and then that's how he got his first gig.
See, so I mean, persistence can be a good thing.
It is. I definitely think persistence is good in the right dosage. Just don't become a stalker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Don't break the law.
Yeah, but do you know what? I said to someone the other day, I was like, in Hollywood they have these tour buses, right, or these tour things.
Yeah.
They freak me out.
How so?
Because essentially, everyone who does this tour bus thing knows where these people live.
Yeah, that's kind of creepy.
And you're literally pulling up to where they live and taking a picture of where they live outside of their house. So I find it, I mean, we don't do this anywhere else, but I just find it very strange that people know exactly where you live.
Yeah.
And they're pulling up your house just to take a picture of where you live.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird?
What
and
do
they
they do with
money
those
from
pictures as well?
It's like a picture of the front door.
That is odd.
Isn't it odd? I find
and I feel like that's a very unique to Hollywood thing.
It's a very unique.
You don't do that here.
You don't do it anywhere else.
No.
But it's like I don't know, going to in somewhere and taking a picture of the Dalai Lama where he lived. Like it would just be like, what's a bit weird. Obviously, people do it with the Queen, right? They take a picture of Buckingham Palace.
That's Buckingham Palace. That's not really where she lives.
Yeah. Obviously, she lives in a place, but it's the same thing. People take pictures of the Buckingham Palace, but I find it really strange. This whole thing about people knowing where you live and they're taking pictures and people making money off where you live.
Yeah, it is
I
odd.
just find it very strange because that's stalking. For me, that's a bit stalking.
A bit. It's kind of like what's the word?
Because you're
Normalized.
Because you're encouraging people technically to go back to that place to go meet that person.
Hang outside.
Because now you know where that person lives.
At least even the area that, because some people will see where you shop and just hang out.
Yeah.
In that vicinity.
Just to catch you.
So that is a bit of a borderline.
Someone did that to someone to give them their script.
Oh wow.
It actually did work though.
Yeah, I still wouldn't. That's a big chance.
But it did work. That they worked out that they wanted to meet them, and for some reason they couldn't make it work. X, Y, Z. But they had the script, and they're like, "Can I just? I'm a big fan of yours. Da, 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 da. I have this thing. I'd love you to play it." And they gave them the script there and then, and they actually did get attached to this actor.
Fair.
So it did actually work, but it also can backfire, right? And the person can be like, "This is a bit weird. I'm actually just going shopping at Air One."
Yeah, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Coming back to your perceptions and experience as a creative person, I'd love to know how you work through creative blocks, because we all suffer them.
Creative blocks. Do I have creative blocks? Yes, I do have creative blocks, but I don't have them like. I don't know. Do I have creative blocks? I do, but I don't. I can come up. I'm sort of like an ideas person. I can come up with like loads of ideas all the time. They might not be all good, but I just have a list of notes on my phone that I just come up with ideas. Like I've got one TV show that I'd love maybe to do, but I come up with an idea like 2 years ago, and I just got to have time to do it potentially. But I just come up with ideas all the time, and so. But also within my line of work as well, you have to respond quite quickly to briefs. So like. I had a brief come in, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, and I had like half a day to come back with a brief. So I already had like 3 ideas to come back with a brief, and then I was like, this is probably the best idea out of the 3. But if I do have a moment where like I just can't figure out writing wise like what I want to do, then I'd probably go for a run. But my process is that I believe that your subconscious brain fixes your problems, and it does.
Absolutely.
So when you sleep, your brain's fixing the problem. So I know my process that if I do have like a bit of a moment, I can't figure out the next thing, I don't panic. I don't go, oh, I can't figure it out. I sort of just leave it. I go and do something else, and then or I go to sleep, and the next day I sort of have the idea, or I have the thing that I think would be quite interesting for it, because I know that my subconscious brain is fixing that idea.
It's like a coworker.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. And so, but I'm also like jumping between different projects. So I multitask quite well. So the way that my schedule works is that I'm jumping across 3 different projects potentially in one day. So I do an hour and a half there, an hour and a half here, an hour and a half there. And then I can sort of leave that project where it's at, have no relation to that, so it doesn't bleed into this, and then literally just jump into that brain. So I don't need to have like a whole day on one thing. I can jump between different things and have different ideas for different things. But in terms of if I have like a block, I probably go for a walk and then I sleep.
It's funny that you mentioned the sleeping thing, because a while back, I actually trained my brain to work on a specific problem. So say if I had a shoot coming up or a piece of social media content that I needed to create, I'd say before I went to sleep, okay, tonight, I need you to come up with some creative for that. I need you to work on it. And I'll go to sleep with that intention in my mind, and I will dream the shoot.
Yeah.
And I start coming up with it, and I'm like, it's almost like a superpower, because I'm still sleeping, but I'm also getting the work done at the same time.
For sure.
Absolutely brilliant.
It's when you wake up from like a dream and then you have an idea. It's like your brain's, your brain's working. And sometimes I'm working on a script and I have an idea and I wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm like, oh my God, and I get my script out. And I start writing it. It doesn't happen always, but generally speaking, like you'll come up with the answers in the morning because your brain's fixed the problem, what you're working on.
Where do you think creative inspiration comes from?
Everything, life.
But like, where does it come from?
Oh, people say it's the universe, it comes down to you, doesn't it? Like, you know, when you get an idea and you're like, where'd that idea come from? Yeah. You're like, it's golden. Like, you're like, oh my God, spaceman on like friggin' universe 217.
Yeah.
Like, it just, an idea just, my thing, you know, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, that brilliant film.
It's a brilliant film.
Where did that idea come from? Like, did it, like, I think there's a podcast that they were talking about, like, the initial idea of where it come from, and then obviously then expands out from, but where'd that initial idea of multiverse come from? And obviously, they said in this podcast, it came from an amalgamation of lots of different things they've been trying for a long time in music videos, and they basically just clumped it together of like stylized animation, like choreography, fight thing, Asian stories, and they just sort of brought it all together. And that's kind of how I think potentially ideas come from. It starts from one thing, and then you then draw on what you have been maybe exploring, but you can only look backwards at it and go, oh, I probably was doing these things. Because I know, like, my work now is an amalgamation of obviously the things that I've liked over the last 10 years.
All your different tastes and interests.
But where does the idea come from? It's references, right? David Bowie had this really great quote. It's called "Steal Like an Artist." And essentially what he means is that everything is a piece of art, whether that I go in this room and I go, oh, this chair is purple. And so my brain has clocked this chair and this type of art design, and someone's made it. So when it comes to like anything art direction in the future, my subconscious has stored that subconsciously. And so I've used this as a reference, and then it might have pollinated with Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill for some random reason, right? I don't know why, because that color has thought about that. And then suddenly I've got two references that then I then take and then can join them together in my own voice, and then that becomes something totally fresh and totally new.
Yeah.
And that is how and Quentin Tarantino also says that it's just a bank of references.
Yeah.
For me, that is what original ideas are. There are loads of different references of things you've seen, read, saw, heard, and then you basically just put them together in your own language or your own voice, and then you put it into the word, and that's an original thing. But actually, it's loads of things you've seen, hence why life is about art. It's loads of stuff that you've seen. So keeping curious, and I'm such a social being that I talk to anyone and everyone, not even about anything, just
sampling life.
Just sampling life. I was in Dialogue Cafe in WeHo the other day, and I was just chatting to a woman because she had a lovely dog, and she was chatting to me about her life and the dog was called Tabebe, and I was cool name, right? But now I've got a dog named called Tabebe, right? Maybe that dog Tabebe will be used somewhere in the future, but like if I didn't have that conversation, I wouldn't have had that name. And so that's kind of, if you think about life as curiosity, because all life is just stories. So that's how I imagine like ideas coming from literally from life. That if you see more stuff, you'll have more stuff to pull from.
Yeah. It's actually really interesting, your description of that, because it kind of leads on to something I wanted to ask you. As someone who works in Hollywood quite a lot, and what's going on and the disruption in that world is not all, but a large part of it is due to AI. And that is exactly how AI works. It samples as much data as you feed it, and it generates something new. And I accept that those things are new, but a lot of people really don't.
But it's not really new though, is it?
But it's doing exactly what you've described.
Yeah, but it's doing it quite badly at the moment.
It's the worst it will ever be.
Yeah, it's quite bad at the moment.
But it will only get better than that.
Because if you say, give me an idea that's the reference of Star Wars, it will be very, very close to Star Wars. It won't be even like something different that is like Star Wars. It will literally be like Star Wars. So it's not very good at really creating original. It kind of gives like carbon copies of an original.
Well, bad copies.
Yeah, bad copies. Yeah. So it's not really even like it's inspired by Star Wars. It's literally like Star Wars.
But what about when it gets to that point? Because it's bad now.
Yeah, but it's going to be a tool. I think anything's like a tool, right?
Yeah.
My thoughts on anything innovation, right, is that it always will be a tool. There was a time where social media was a terrible thing and people were like, oh my God, what we're going to do with social media? And then we use it now as a tool, right?
Well, I mean, the funny thing about social media, the fact that it's got such industries around it, is when it first became kind of Web 2 social media, it was almost seen as completely pointless and frivolous, because all people were doing was taking pictures of their food, taking pictures of a restaurant they went to or a shop they've been to.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really a utility for it until it became an industry. Yeah. So I feel like AI maybe it's going through or leaving that early stage where it doesn't really have much use, but we're starting to see some real uses.
It's getting used in businesses like e-commerce and stuff, where they do all the data and the trends and stuff. Like I think like it's used a lot in businesses at the moment, and obviously for storyboarding and stuff. If you,
I use it for storyboarding.
yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, it's good for like as a tool and stuff. But
It
like,
saves me having to draw everything really badly.
yeah, it's great for that, and it's only going to be a tool. And I'm probably sure that a lot of filmmakers as well make, and also set designers and art directors make things as much as they possibly can manually, right? And that's what they did in the old days. And case in case, Barbie did a lot of that manual.
A lot of practical.
Yeah, a lot of practical stuff. And maybe as well when VFX and CGI came in the picture, which it probably did, they were like, why are we doing VFX?
No one's ever going to build sets again.
Do you know what I mean? So this is the thing about kind of innovation and technology, that it all just becomes like part of our own toolkit and our process. That doesn't become this or that. And my thing, right? I give an example to my friend the other day. You have like fast fashion, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have all this stuff that is like made by machines or whatever, right? So we have fast fashion, which a lot of people use, right? But you spend £10, £20, and there's no reason why you can't have fast fashion, right? But then you go to like more like selective and more like luxury pieces that are handmade, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's also a market for that, right? So it doesn't mean that we're not going to use the fast fashion, we're not going to do handmade. It just means that the handmade stuff is more precious.
In a lot of ways, it's more valuable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe in the future, all this sort of AI thing, there might be like a space for that, but then also might be more of I actually handmade this thing.
I actually shot these actors.
Yeah.
Actual people acted in
Yeah,
this
do you know what I mean? And that will be like a luxury thing to have. Do you know what I mean? Like sort of film, film and digital. It's a luxury to have film.
People still shoot on film.
A lot of people now, and there's a shortage in film stock at the moment in London. But like, there was a time probably where people are like, digital, and now it's a luxury to have film. So I think that's kind of the way it will go. That there'll always be this sort of thing, but we'll always go, this is like original, this is authentic, and that will be more valued, and we'll want to dip into that. Like VR, right? There'll always be VR around in the future and all that sort of thing. But when you have like physical experiences at the cinema, they will be valued.
Yeah.
Because you'll always have the one or the other. You'll never just have AI or fast fashion. It will always be one or the other.
I also think humans are just interested in so many different things.
Yeah.
I don't see how one thing will do it all, because we've never seen that. At any point has one thing been the thing that everybody loves unanimously, and you don't need any competition.
Yeah.
Like, humans have such a breadth and variety of interests and needs and desires.
Yeah.
I just don't see how one thing would take over completely.
No, it's not possible, because we demand different things all the time.
I think the other thing that I always talk about or think about when it comes to AI and people being worried about it taking creative jobs is AI doesn't want anything. Like, it has literally no desire. It's like you said, it's a tool. Like, my camera's not going to set themselves up and start shooting a conversation with two people, because they don't want to.
No, not yet.
But why would they ever want anything?
I don't know, not yet. Unless it becomes conscious.
But consciousness then is very tied to humanality. Wow, that's not a word.
Just make it a word. Just make it a word.
Consciousness is very tied to humanality.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that we know we're going to die, the fact that we want to replicate ourselves, the fact that we want friendships and love and are angered by things and hurt. Those are all tied into being a mortal thing, having limited time.
Yeah.
AI will never have a time pressure.
This is true. They'll never have a limited
Right,
time.
so the desire to create something, to make a difference, to be remembered, AI never has those things. So then where does art come into that? Where does the desire to create and produce come into that? I would argue it doesn't, which is why we're safe.
Yeah.
I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
I
hope.
I mean, I hope it can't write as good as like the song Yesterday or like Simon Garfunkel, because those are like poetic, beautiful things that they've gone through as people. And for me, they're like perfect songs, and I'm sure many people would say they're perfect songs, but I can't imagine AI replicating something like that, because they've only lived through that. Yeah. So they could only...
You hope that comes directly from
because
a person having an experience.
I think this Yesterday was obviously, I think it was like Paul McCartney got the inspiration from his mother in the dream. I think it was Yesterday. But like an AI is not going to have a...
Doesn't have a mum.
Well, it might...
Or dreams.
It might dream, because obviously you look at iRobot, and iRobot 2 is coming out soon. But iRobot is obviously when he says, I was dreaming. Maybe that is a thing in the future. I don't know. And when it becomes conscious.
be really scary. You're living and working in the US
Yes.
the majority of the time now.
Yeah.
First question, actually. What was that process like? And why did you decide to leave us?
It's just a bigger
Here in the
market.
UK.
It's just a bigger market. I never actually intended to go to America. Maybe some people do, but I didn't. I didn't think it was on my cards. But I don't know. I just never thought about it,
Yeah.
and I don't know. Maybe I got to like 2017, and something just came up, and I visited. It was 2017, and I visited LA for the first time, and I was living in North Hollywood with a friend of mine on their blow-up couch, which was not very great.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere, and I was with I was thinking near about this place called the American Pie, which is a great spot if anyone's in North Hollywood. They do like lots of like live acts and stuff. But I never really intended to penetrate the US market. I don't know why, but opportunities came up, and then of interests and stuff, and then I was like, TV and film and the bigger campaigns and stuff that's happening in the States, and I just sort of started that process. And what I basically knew is that I needed to build up my portfolio first before I even started the process of the O1 visa or any visa, right? So I did make it my mission for 3 years just to like build up loads of clients and brands and stuff. So when I did apply, it was
You were legit.
Yeah, I was legit, and I had things to back me up and to get over there. But
you weren't someone just hoping to make it work. You'd actually demonstrated you could make it work.
Yeah, for sure. And because obviously, like I think when you start your visa process, it's very tricky because there's lots of things that you need to put in place, like clients need to know that you're going. Well, the government needs to, or the embassy needs to know that you're going to be working over there, so you need to have clients lined up, and then sort of catch-22 that you need to.
Yeah, because how do you get them unless you can guarantee you can work?
Yeah. So that was sort of the obstacle that I think a lot of people. And then how do you get a sponsor if you haven't got a US? It's all these things that get put in place. But I sort of, I don't know, just sort of managed to do it. And then once you get your first visa, you get a second visa, and then it's just probably easy. You just renew it, and then you do stuff from that.
And what are some of the things that you feel like the creative industry outside of the US could learn, and vice versa?
More giving.
Okay.
I say this to a lot of people. I had this conversation on Sunday last week with a group of friends in LA. Like, the UK and some other places like Germany are really amazing at giving to the creative arts. Like, we have Arts Council, we have the BFI, we have different pools of grants and stuff. In America, that's not a thing, especially in LA. In New York, I don't know about New York, maybe they do, but in LA, they don't have that. They don't have like organizations like the Oscars or People's Choice Award or Golden Globes or other different arts entities like the Arts Council. They don't have anything like that that's giving like grants or mentoringship or events or anything. Like BAFTA do incredible things.
Yeah, they support a lot of grassroots. Even in the gaming industry, BAFTA do a lot.
Yeah, they do loads. In America, it's not like that, even though there's a lot of money over there.
So it's more down to individuals to set up their own foundations.
And find and seek funding from angels or financiers. It's more like on them as independent. And I think that's where I think more America or LA could be a bit more giving in the new up-and-coming voices, because they're always saying, what's the new voice in town or whatever. But like, if you don't support it and nourish new talent, then how do you find new voices? And like, as much as it is complicated to get BFI funding or go through the BBC, like, they are doing their job by giving new voices like support and platform, where like there isn't like, there's like Channel 4, there's Film 4, there's Ireland Fund, there's loads in the UK and in Ireland and Scotland, but there's just nothing in America like that.
What do you feel like we could learn from your experience of the American industry?
To say yes more.
Okay.
Like, we're quick. I think most people say we're really quick to say no.
Yeah.
Where in America, they're quick to say yes. So if I come up with an idea like, I want to create, I don't know, this TV show about bears and dinosaurs on planet ZX, they'll be like, yeah, and who's going to play the dinosaur? And I'll be like, Brad Pitt is. And they'll be like, yeah. Well, like, if I do this in the UK, people are like, oh, no, I don't know.
Not sure about that.
Yeah, like, I just think, and because we're just a bit closed-minded a little bit, where,
Yeah.
like, I think because there's a growth mindset in America, maybe because it's a more of a capitalist society, potentially,
Maybe.
in California, that there's more scope to say yes and have more connections and stuff, and connect you to people that could help you, where, like, in the UK, it's not so much like that. I think they're more quick to say no than they are to say yes.
Fair. I think that's fair.
And or maybe because also the market is bigger. America's got more money naturally than the UK because it's a bigger space. So
there's more to go around.
I think there's more to go around, and that's why you always get, like, the budget's always bigger in the US than they are in the UK and Germany and Amsterdam. Like, Amsterdam traditionally is like quite small budgets, and then it's usually second is UK, then first is the US. So you'll always get, like, it's like with US music video shoots. There's always a huge budget for
Their
music.
budgets are insane.
Yeah, and then compared to the UK, they're not that big.
You're lucky
right?
if you get 10k.
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? The US just has more money.
Yeah.
Right, and then my argument is if they got more money, then surely they should put money into newer artists and new
True.
voices because they have more money.
Like you said, there is a lot of really talented, hungry, passionate people that have, they see everything being made on their doorsteps and don't necessarily have access to that world.
Yeah, and also there's more people. Before COVID, right, when I was in LA, everyone was an actor. You went to an Uber, everyone was an actor.
Interesting.
It's so true. And then COVID happened, and then a lot of people moved out of LA, and there was less people because people couldn't survive there because there wasn't that much work, and so they probably went home and they did other things and that sort of stuff. So there's still a lot of people there, but it's not as many people now. And so there's only so many jobs, and so it's on your doorstep, but maybe you might not be able to get into that door. And so, but what I do believe is the states give you the opportunity. So they'll really champion you, they'll believe in you, and they'll give you the opportunity. And if you don't succeed with that opportunity, you might not get another one.
Yeah.
But they'll definitely give the opportunity. Where, like, I think in the UK, you might not get that first opportunity potentially.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the thing. I don't know. I think it's just an American thing. But also, we are very, very humble, and we don't toot our own horn.
Huge, yeah.
And so obviously a lot of British people go over then they're like, oh, do you want me to do it again? And Americans like, yeah, I've smashed that. And it's so you have to obviously balance, and sarcasm. I can't get sarcasm, and I'm quite sarcastic, so I have to be like,
that was a joke.
Yeah. And I did this last week on a job, and I kept on making loads of jokes, and there was someone on my team that was British, so she was laughing, but they don't get sarcasm.
Yeah, if you say something wild, they'll be like, oh my God, he really thinks that thing.
Yeah, so I have to obviously be really careful and say that it's a joke. But generally speaking, it's a very different kind of demeanour that we have over US and UK, and you have to sort of balance that. But obviously they love British people because we're so lovely and humble and kind and stuff and have an accent.
Yes. The accent thing makes a big difference over there.
A big one.
People treat you like you're smarter. And I'm like, I am not any smarter.
I know, isn't it? They think that...
You get a little intelligence bump.
I know. I definitely ham up my English accent a little.
Do?
Yeah, I do. I'd be like, can I have a tea, please?
Oh, wow.
I just put it... I don't go full RP, but I definitely do it like
funny.
that. Because if I spoke where I'm from, which is more like Devonshire accent like that, can you give me a tea, please? And it's definitely... They probably wouldn't understand what I'm saying.
They think you're Irish.
I can't even do it. Can I do an Irish accent? No, I can't even.
No.
I can't even do it. But, like, I just add on a little bit of English.
Little touch.
Yeah, because they really
respond.
do enjoy it. But then I also love when a Valley person, so someone from the Valley who comes into my space, I generally love it. And they're like, oh my God. And I love it. Because I was with someone from Georgia, and I never met anyone from Georgia, and I love...
It's a completely different accent.
Oh man, it was like, y'all...
It's rich.
Yeah, it's like really like Southern. And I couldn't stop having a conversation with her because I loved her accent.
Yeah.
And I understood why Americans maybe that then saw our accent.
Yeah.
Because I was like that with her accent, and I was like, can you just keep talking to me?
Just keep talking.
Yeah, because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, fair. What's some of the work that you've done that you're most proud of?
None.
Don't stop.
None. I honestly look forward. I never look back.
No?
I've not even hit any sort of
Milestones. Nothing.
Not for me personally.
But you must have done some gigs or worked with some companies and you're like, I never thought.
Yeah, for sure. I never thought, like, I have a picture on my phone. I have a picture on my phone, and it's a picture of me when I'm younger.
For anyone who can't see that, he's on the toilet seat.
I'm on the toilet seat.
Reading a newspaper.
And I'm probably like 3 years old or 4 years old. But it was actually Anthony Hopkins who gave me that idea, and he has a picture of himself when he's a child on his phone. And there's 2 reasons why I chose that phone. 1, on the toilet, but 2, as a child. 1, that we're all children and we should be thanking our child and be really grateful for who we are. And 2, we all go to the toilet.
Yeah.
And so also, like, it helps me go, we all are the same and we'll all go to the toilet and we all do that thing. And my dad always says that we're all the same at the end of the day. Like, we have different titles and stuff, and people sometimes come across that they're more important, but actually we're all just human beings and we're all going to die. Mm-hmm. So those are the things that really help me when I'm just, and this is why, like, I have like 2 tattoos which really help me in life, which is 1, go with the flow, and 2, be the light in the room, which is really helpful because I don't want to ever be sucking the energy. I always want to be giving energy, and it's not really about me, it's about everyone else, making sure they feel great. So I always look forward rather than looking back. But if I look at my childhood self and go where I am at now, I was at my friend's house the other day, and he lives in Hollywood Hills, and I was saying to him, and we were looking over like the whole of Hollywood, and it was a beautiful house, and I was saying, my childhood self, and he works in tech, and I was saying my childhood self would be wild that I'm literally like in this like penthouse thing, looking over Hollywood, and what I've achieved and where I've come from, and I'm literally from a village town in Devon, and I'm literally in the Hollywood Hills, looking over Hollywood, and I've got a visa, and some people only like even in London, right? Some people live in Manchester and only dream about living in London, and we're living in, like, do you know what I mean? Those sort of things. And when I moved to London when I was 16, and then when I moved to LA, that was a milestone, going to London at 16, and then going to LA was an even bigger thing, right? Yeah. And you have to go back to your childhood self at like 10, 15, going, did you see this for yourself? And no, of course it didn't. Mm-hmm. But I'm always moving forward. So looking back at stuff, I'm proud of it, but I don't go.
You don't dwell on it.
I don't look at it and go, that's really great. I go, I haven't even scratched the surface. And maybe that's my ambitious nature and also like perfectionism. It's definitely perfectionism.
I mean, if I ever look back on my work, I can only ever see what I wish I'd done differently. Like anyone who listens to this podcast, I apologize because I do bring it up occasionally, but I'm very critical of my work. I'm never fully satisfied. Mm-hmm. I only feel comfortable with it when my client's happy, and that's where I can sign it off. I can't sign off anything because if it's up to me, there's always a better way to shoot it. There's always a better way to light it. So I never let anything, like, I'm never proud of it. I'm never too settled on a project. Yeah. I have to let the client say, okay, we're good.
But even then though, I don't think even if the client thinks it's great and I know it's not, like,
I don't mind. I have to relieve myself of it.
No, I can't, because I know it's got my name on it. So I have to.
I think it's different then for the kind of stuff you do. My name's not on anything.
Yeah, my name's not. So I have to. So, but if it's like a passion, if it's like a project, like let's say you're doing a short film, right, and it's your baby, it's nothing anyone else's. So that's the
my
thing.
short film would never come out.
Why not?
Because I just would never be. I'd never be like, this is it.
Oh right, because yeah. So because someone asked me that the other day on a thing, and I was like, well, I work quite quick. Like once it's sort of in post, it doesn't take me like 8, 9, 10 months or a year to get in post. I sort of like get it going, and then once we feel like we've got something, I'm like, okay, let's sign it off. And I'd like to get to an approach, but I feel really comfortable with it. But if I'm working with someone else, I know it's not, and if it's not my thing, it's someone else's thing. Even if they think that it's done, we've got the shot. If I know that we haven't really just got there, I'd like to have another go at it and get it. And I think there's a director who did Social Network. Who shoots like 1,000 takes,
I can't remember his name, but I know you're talking
Do you know what I
about,
mean?
yeah.
I can't remember what his name is now, but he does like 100 takes.
And then watches every single one.
And watches every single one,
Yeah.
and he's a militant at doing those sort of things. And I'm not like that at all, but I definitely understand that thing. Even if people say we've got the shot, I'm like, do we have the shot? I was rather, and this is like my food as well. I'd much rather have more than less, or the same. I'd much rather go over by 20% and have 20 more things.
Yeah.
Than
Options.
than having like the thing that we got. Like if
And
we
that's
have
it.
one take that's good, I want another 4.
Yeah, still another couple, yeah.
I want 4. I don't want just one going. We've
Yeah.
got one because I want choice.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that I do definitely do, if I submit something to a client and they don't have like bullet points of feedback, part of me thinks they haven't looked at it. If they're just okay with it, like I write a column for Digital Camera Magazine every month called Scanning Ahead, and my editor Neale is an amazing man, and he's way too generous, and he's never asked me to change anything.
Maybe because it's just good.
I can't believe that.
Why don't you ask him for further notes then?
Because he's like, it's good, I'm happy. He's happy, so I have to just let it go. If he's happy to publish it in his magazine with my
Right.
name on it, then it's good.
But you could always make it better though.
And this is why if I had to leave it to me, I'd never finish anything. But the other thing is sometimes I'll submit something and my client will say it's good. And if they're happy, then I'll do some polishing before I let it go live.
But you always get different opinions, right? I'm working on something at the moment, and I got opinion from someone who were like, "Oh, this is really, really great," and then I got an opinion from someone else going, "This could be a little bit better."
Yeah.
And I also know it could be a little bit better, even though that one opinion was like, "This is really, really great."
Yeah.
It can always be better. So I'm listening to the person that could always be better because I also know it could really be better, even though the person thinks that this thing, right? Because everyone's got a different opinion.
So at what point are you satisfied with a job?
Until I know I've got it. It's just a
How do you know you've
it's
got
a
it?
feeling.
Fair.
It's a feeling.
Fair.
I don't know how to explain. Like, you know, like, I don't know, when you feel like someone's, I don't know, it's not like someone cries and you're like, oh my God, he cries.
You've moved them.
You move them. I don't know, it's just like a feeling, like when you get like goosebumps or when you...
I get the hair raising on my arms sometimes.
Yeah, I think like Greta, who did Barbie, she was in a Q&A roundtable with a couple of other filmmakers, and she was like, someone said like, how do you know what good filmmaking is? And she was like, you just know. You just know when you see it. It's something that just compels you, that something that's just deep and it's personal and it's really them. You just sort of know.
Yeah.
And it's really...
It's untangible.
Yeah, it's really difficult to explain because when you watch really good art or really good a piece of theatre or anything, you just know if it's good.
Yeah.
You just have a feeling. And so when I watch something, I'm doing it, and someone does something, you just know you've hit that thing. But if it doesn't make you feel a certain way, that's how I think it is. If it doesn't make you feel a certain way, it probably haven't got it yet. That's kind of maybe my problem.
It's a good measuring stick.
Yeah, like if it doesn't make you feel a certain way, then probably you haven't hit that thing just yet.
Yeah.
Because you can only go on what you feel. You can't think, what is the audience going to feel that's doing it? It's only
That's impossible.
Yeah, so like if you think about the audience, like I was saying, like someone recently said to me, two different people. So one was a filmmaker and one was a tech bro, and he was like, I don't build things for someone else. I build something for my need. And if you build something for the market, it's probably not going to be as successful if you build it for yourself and then you service yourself and then it goes into the market. And it's similarly the same thing for creative entrepreneurial people who work in film and want to go and do filmmaking or TV shows or whatever. If you try to write something for the market, it might not work out. But if you write something like the brothers did for Stranger Things, and they wrote something because they wanted that in the space and they didn't see that in the space, then it might not be as successful because it hasn't come from a real genuine place of I need that because I don't see it in the space, rather than there's a market for it, there's a space for it, because you're just servicing the market.
Also, the other risk of that is markets change.
Yeah.
The need of the audience can change, the interest in the audience can change. So if you're making something for that market, by the time it comes out,
It's changed.
it might not even be there anymore. You're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I should have made, but now no one's interested.
Yeah. And
Whereas like I think the thing that you said that I loved is if you're servicing your need and you're creating something that you don't see in the world, then it will find an audience because it didn't exist before.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
that's how I create now. Because what I used to do is I used to service the market, and that's what I used to do when I was in my mid-20s. and I'd see something and I'm like, I'm going to create that. And now I'm writing and making my own work. I'm seeing stuff and I go, oh, but then I was like,
There's a gap here.
Yeah, there's a gap here, and I want to create stuff like this, and I want to tackle this thing or this theme or whatever. And so then you write this thing, and then it becomes you, and then it goes into the market or goes into the space, and then it becomes you, and it's authentic to you, and it's different because there isn't something there, because you notice there isn't something there, and it's also of interest to you.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense.
Somewhere it will.
Yeah, for me it makes sense, and I just because I like when Paranormal Activity came around, I'm sure there was loads of filmmakers who were making and pitching Paranormal Activity pieces of work, right? Because the market said Paranormal Activity was doing really well,
wants.
And that's what the brothers did at Stranger Things. They were pitching loads of Paranormal Activity. It's on a podcast. And then it was not, I mean, maybe it was doing well, maybe not, but it didn't really have their voice in it because they were just servicing the market. But then they wrote Stranger Things, and it was actually called Stranger Things. It was called Hawkins High, I think it was originally. And then it became really well because it was their own thing, and they were servicing themselves, and they made a space in the market for themselves.
I love that. For people that have never worked with a company like Apple,
Yeah.
and they've never seen their pictures in an Apple store on a billboard,
Yeah.
what is it like working in that world?
You sink into what you know because you're there. You're only there because you've done X, Y, and Z to get you there. So you just sink into those skills that you did and just listen to what they want and just be empathetic to what they want.
Because I imagine there's a lot less freedom when you're working with a really established brand.
Yeah, because you're not paying for it, they are, and that's the difference. And you have to remember that even though you want to be as artistic as possible, and we were just talking about the original Guinness campaign of the horses and stuff, I'm probably sure that Jonathan Glazer maybe had like a bit more freedom in what you want to do, but you want to get to the point where you are, even if you're working with a brand, that you have a lot more freedom, like Dan Levy doing Loewe recently. I'm sure he probably had, and he was the creative director of that piece, I'm sure he had a lot more freedom because obviously he's got a certain amount of Emmys and that sort of stuff. So you want to get to the point where you are working with a brand, that you are having more freedom. But until that point, you are still kind of like subject to that brand because you haven't reached the height of where you need to be just yet, that you can have total creative freedom. So you have, yes, you want to be as creative as possible and you want to be different and stuff, but also still they're paying for the gig. So if they say it has to be black because of their marketing strategy for 2026, it has to be black color, or it has to be these type of socks, then it has to be those type of socks, even if you have a different vision. You can say, you brought me on, I think is this, but you're also not internally in their conversation. So you're one small cog of a big strategy that they're trying to roll out. So you also have to be aware of that and push it as much as you possibly can. But I always say give them two options. I always say this is going to be really experimental, really creative, but also do it safe. Yeah. Generally speaking, sometimes they'll go with safe, sometimes they'll go creative. But I like to give them both options because then it gives them because a lot of people don't know what they don't know. So that for me is the biggest thing. That's why I wanted to. Yeah. So if you go really creative, and I would say this is probably going to be really out there, but I'm just going to do it anyway, and then so you've got it anyway. Because the more stuff that you shoot, again, the more stuff you've got to play in the edit. So if I ever give you more, you've got more to play with. If you haven't got, if you shoot what you have, or you do that thing, then you've only got that to play with. But if you have more to play with, then you've got so many different directions to go in the edit.
And also, I think in today's world, whenever you're on a shoot, you're never shooting for one piece of content. No. On every single campaign, you're thinking about TV, you're thinking about ad spots, you're thinking about social, different formats, digital ads. Yeah. So I think your approach of shooting more gives you so much more to play with.
And for them. Yeah. And also for me, like even when I'm doing my own like short films and stuff, I want to I like the idea, like if you're doing like a comedy piece or whatever, you record the script, you shoot the script, but then you just let them free. Yeah. Just let them, because then you've got more.
Gloves off, just go for it.
Just go for it. And I think and if someone says, I want to try something, go ahead. Go ahead, and then you've got more in the edit, because that thing that they do, they might just honk their nose, and you go, that would be great for 2 minutes, 30 seconds, or whatever that thing is, or they graze their hand on the soil, and you're like, oh my God, symbolism. Like
Yeah.
things are like that, the small things that make the you might not notice it in the moment, but when you come back out and you zoom out into your edit, you see the whole thing and it really, really works.
I think that freedom as well allows for happy accidents.
Yeah.
Stuff that you could never have planned for. Interactions and moments, or especially when you're working with people.
Yeah.
It's little. I couldn't have scripted that.
I just shoot everything.
Yeah.
I shoot.
Just leave the camera rolling.
Oh yeah. There's this filmmaker. I can't remember what he said though, but he said he even shoots rehearsals. I shoot everything. The camera is always on.
Interesting.
We don't just do rehearsal and then we've got it and then we then start rolling.
Yeah.
We record everything. Like because we're on digital. I'm not on film. Like I personally wouldn't work on film anytime now, only because I like to shoot everything. And with film, obviously, you've got to be more
very limited, yeah.
Specific. So I like working on film. I'm an anamorphic lens guy through and through. So I love the way that it captures the cinematic quality, but also on just a digital, I just like to shoot everything. So then I've got loads of stuff in the can and I can just go into the edit and play around and figure out what it is. Even though I have a clear idea, like I'm working on a film at the moment, and I have beat by beat what I want to do, and I think where the jokes are going to land and all that sort of stuff. But I also just want to shoot loads of stuff, like shoot loads of inserts, shoot loads of different things, shoot a different way of doing it, make them just improvise and stuff. I just think it's just really handy.
Yeah, I love that approach. And also I just think things will emerge in that process that you can't have planned for. That
for
add
sure.
to it. They bring another level of depth to the whole performance.
And I think there is that balance between different people's processes of being like really, really regiment and militant on like the shot list, and we stay to the shot list and we shoot whatever that thing is. But I have a flexibility that I go, this is sort of the other thing. But some of the things I don't know the answer yet.
Yeah.
And I think kind of like it comes from my improv background as an actor that anything could possibly happen. And I also like the collaboration.
And will.
I will, but I also like the thing of like anything could happen and things can be born in the space where even though we are time crunched in a lot of our schedules when we're shooting, I still want that flexibility because then things come out that you don't even know and we're figuring it out. And that's the beautiful thing about what we do is that we actually get to collaborate with people and they have different experiences. And I also want to be like, you bring people on for a certain reason, right? So let them do their thing. Like, let the DP do his thing. Let the actor do his thing. I don't micromanage. I sort of just say, this is kind of my idea. It's about blue. What do you think? And then just let them do their thing.
Yeah.
And I sort of guide them. But I don't like micromanage because the whole reason why they're there is because they're very good at what they do. And they'll come up with their thing. As long as I give them parameters, they'll go off and run off and do it. And then they'll birth things that you didn't even know would even think. So
because they're bringing themselves to the table.
Yeah, and you'll have to sort of let that sort of margin of like improvisation happen. So you plan maybe 8% or 85% and leave 15% or 20% that you just don't know that you're going to figure out in the day because you couldn't have come up with it by yourself because you need those people to come
It's
in.
the sum of that collective.
Yeah, and I'm a big... I mean, that's why I have a tattoo. Go with the flow. Go with the energy of the space, because I think what we do is so beautiful and fun, and I love it. I mean, I get so tearful when I talk about what I do and when I'm on set because I'm so aware of time. Like I'm really a big, deep thinker. So when I'm on set, I get so emotional.
Yeah.
Because I actually.
It matters to you.
I just love it.
Yeah.
It makes it well up now, but I honestly just love what I do, and I can't think of anything else doing it. And even though it's hard, a lot of the time, I honestly just love it. I just can't think of anything else that I would rather do with my time on Earth than create and come up with ideas and work with people and shoot stuff and come up with stories. Stories change the world. They really
Absolutely.
do. Look at all these films that came out for Oscars, and they look at like Jellyfish and Lobster that won the BAFTA for a short film, and American Fiction, and Barbie, and all these beautiful, and also like Past Lives and stuff that they've been nominated this year, and the stories that come out, and they change you.
Yeah.
They change how we see life, and the zone of interest as well. Same thing with a bit more political edge, but they change the way that you see things. And it's not just like being on set and making stuff and whatever. It really does change the way that people see the world. And I honestly believe that. And I believe that stories and what you make and what you write can really change people's perspective and inspire them to go off and do their own stories and stuff. So I really cherish stories a lot.
I think that's a beautiful note to end on.
Yeah.
Where can people keep up with you and see what you're working on?
On a plane? I don't know. I'm always on a plane. Well, obviously my Instagram and my website and stuff, and I don't know, just
Tell the people.
my Instagram is Jaime Neale JN, and then obviously there's all these links on work and websites and stuff. But usually I'm just posting on my story memes and videos of people talking about their process, and I do loads of music, fair. Orchestra. I'm always posting about orchestra, like Hans Zimmer is always probably a big one, or like John Williams, like violinist playing Schindler's List or something. That's kind of what I'm always posting.
Fair.
I never really post about work. It's always
there might be some work on there occasionally.
Sometimes, but usually, all like it's motivational posts.
Yeah.
A lot of it is that, like, you can do this, or motivation is amazing. It's sort of like that sort of stuff. So.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate you. Thank you guys for listening, and/or if you're watching, I appreciate you. There's a lot of cameras here.
There's a lot of cameras.
But yeah, if you have any comments or questions, please put them in the comment section below, or send us a DM. Really appreciate hearing from all of you, and your feedback is very welcome. I guess I'll see you guys in another episode.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you.
No way. Thank you.